If one more person tells me to just relax when I'm stressed, I might actually explode. We've all heard it. It's the most generic, useless advice on the planet. Because telling someone in the middle of a stress response to just relax is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. It completely ignores what's actually happening inside our bodies. For a long time, I thought stress was some kind of personal failing, a sign I wasn't organized, tough, or disciplined enough. But that's not the whole story. Chronic stress isn't just a feeling. It's a physiological state. It's a flood of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that jack up your heart rate, tense your muscles, and put your whole nervous system on high alert. Over time, being stuck in that fight or flight mode wears you down, leading to everything from high blood pressure and digestive issues to a weaker immune system and mental health struggles. I got tired of the generic advice and that feeling of being out of control. I wanted real solutions. So, like any good coach, I decided to turn myself into a human guinea pig. I went looking for specific evidence-based techniques rooted in hard neuroscience to see if it's really possible to get a handle on your body's stress response. This is what happened when I tried 3 of the most powerful science-backed hacks for easing stress. And honestly, what I found was pretty amazing. First up, I needed a tool for those moments of acute, overwhelming stress. You know the feeling. That jolt you get from a terrifying email from your boss, the wave of panic before a big presentation. Your heart starts pounding, your breathing gets shallow, and your mind races a million miles an hour. In those moments, what you need is an emergency brake. That's when I found the work of Stanford neuroscientist, you guessed it, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and his physiological sigh. It sounds almost too simple, but the science is actually fascinating. He calls it the fastest built-in reset switch for your nerve system. Here's the science. When you're stressed, tiny air sacs in your lungs can collapse, which makes your breathing shallow and inefficient. This causes carbon dioxide to build up in your bloodstream, which is a major panic signal for your brain. The physiological sigh works by forcefully reinflating those tiny sacs. It's a very specific pattern. 2 sharp inhales through the nose, followed by 1 long, complete exhale through the mouth. That first inhale fills most of your lungs, but it's that second little inhale that pops open the collapsed sacs, maximizing your lung capacity. Then, the long, slow exhale lets you offload a massive amount of carbon dioxide all at once. This single action sends a powerful signal to your brainstem to fire up your parasympathetic nervous system or your body's rest and digest mode. It immediately slows your heart rate and dials down that panicked feeling. So I put it to the test. My moment came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was on a tight deadline, the pressure was on, and I could feel that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. Instead of just trying to power through, I stopped. I leaned back and did the little physiological sigh. A big inhale, a little extra one at the top, and then a long, slow exhale out. The effect was immediate. It wasn't just a vague feeling of calm, it was a physical downshift. Felt like my entire nervous system went from 5th gear to 2nd in a single breath. I did it again and a 3rd time, and that frantic energy just dissolved. My heart rate, which had been hammering against my ribs, settled. The mental fog cleared. It was really profound. For the rest of the week, I used it as my secret weapon. Stuck in traffic, physiological sigh. Anxious before a tough phone call, physiological sigh. Didn't solve the problem itself, but it stops my internal overreaction, giving me clarity to actually handle it. Okay, the physiological sigh was a game changer for panic, but what about the other kind of stress? The chronic, low-grade anxiety that just hums in the background all day, making you feel constantly on edge. It's not a panic attack, just an exhausting state of hypervigilance. For this, I needed something to turn down the volume on that constant buzzing anxiety. This led me to the idea of bilateral stimulation. It's a key part of therapies like EMDR, which is used to treat trauma, but the basic principle is something you can use anytime, anywhere. Here's the science. Your brain's threat detecting center is a little almond-shaped thing called the amygdala. When you're in a state of chronic anxiety, your amygdala is basically overactive, constantly scanning for danger. Bilateral stimulation involves rhythmically engaging the left and right sides of your brain, which has been shown to have a calming effect on the amygdala. The simplest way to do this is actually with your eyes. When you walk, your eyes naturally move from side to side, creating what's called optic flow. This forward motion signals signal is inherently calming, telling your brain you're moving away from a threat. You can actually mimic this just by sitting still and intentionally moving your eyes from left to right. This simple rhythmic movement helps quiet the amygdala's alarm bells. My experiment was this. For 1 week, whenever I felt that vague humming anxiety, I would stop for 60 seconds and just let my eyes slowly scan from left to right and back again. I didn't follow a finger or anything important. I just moved my eyes from one edge of my vision to the other. I'll be honest, the first few times I felt ridiculous. It seemed like nothing was happening, but I did stick with it for the sake of you all. And about 30 or 40 seconds in, I'd noticed a subtle shift. It wasn't that whoosh of a calm like the sigh. It was more like the background static in my brain was slowly being turned down. That feeling of being on and vigilant just softened a little bit. I did it at my desk when my to-do list felt overwhelming. I did it on the couch when I was just scrolling and feeling agitated. By the end of the week, it became a reliable way to interrupt the cycle of simmering anxiety, gently pulling my brain out of its anxious loop. So, I had a tool for acute panic and a tool for background anxiety. I was playing great defense, but I didn't want to just manage stress. I wanted to become more resilient to it. I wanted a long-term strategy to change my brain's relationship with stress so it wouldn't get triggered so easily in the first place. This is where science points overwhelmingly in one direction: mindfulness meditation. And I know what you might be thinking, but forget the mystical image. The benefits of meditation are grounded in hard neuroscience, specifically the relationship between two parts of your brain. Here's the science. You have your prefrontal cortex, the logical, thinking part of your brain right behind your forehead. And then you have the amygdala, the emotional, reactive part we've been talking about. In a well-regulated brain, the PFC acts like a good manager, keeping the amygdala's emotional outbursts in check. But under chronic stress, that connection gets weaker. The amygdala starts calling the shots, making you more reactive, more anxious, and less able to think clearly. MRI research shows that regular mindfulness meditation does something incredible. It physically strengthens the connection between your PFC and your amygdala. Some studies even show it can shrink the gray matter in the reactive amygdala while thickening the thoughtful PFC. You are literally taking your brain to the gym and training it to regulate its own emotional responses. My experiment here was just about commitment. Just 10 minutes of guided meditation every single day for 1 month. I use an app, but you can use whatever you want. Sat down each morning and just followed the instructions. The first week was torture. My mind was a circus. I thought about emails, my grocery list, that dumb thing I said 5 years ago. Anything but my breath. I felt like I was failing miserably. But the instructions were just to notice when your mind wanders and gently bring it back. So I did. Again and again and again. Around the middle of the second week, something shifted. It wasn't that my mind stopped wandering. It was that I got better at noticing it when I did. I started to see my thoughts as just thoughts, not as urgent commands or absolute truths. By the end of the month, the change was undeniable. It's not like I was suddenly floating around in a state of bliss. The real change was the emergence of a tiny space, a space between a stressful thing happening and my reaction to it. Before, the stimulus and reaction were fused. Stress happened, and I was instantly stressed. Now, there was a pause. In that pause, I had a choice. A work email that would have previously sent me spiraling would come in, and I would see the anxiety rising and think, there's that feeling, without letting it completely hijack me. That gap, that tiny moment of awareness, was my newfound control. So, after a month of being my own science experiment, here's the takeaway. The physiological sigh is your emergency brake for in-the-moment panic. Bilateral eye movement is the volume knob for that annoying background anxiety. And daily mindfulness is the long-term strength training that builds a more resilient brain. These aren't magic tricks, they're practical, evidence-based tools that work by targeting specific biological processes. Trying these taught me that we have so much more control over our internal state than we think. Stress isn't some vague, unconquerable monster. It's a physiological process, and that means it can be understood, interrupted, and managed. We just need the right instruction manual for our own bodies. But these are just the hacks that worked for me. The field of neuroscience and stress reduction is massive. So I want to hear from you. What are the science-backed techniques you use to manage stress? What actually works for you? Share them in the comments below and let's build a toolbox together. And finally, if you enjoyed this and want to explore more ways to upgrade your life with science, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next experiment.